I'm cutting another hole in the bus, because why not? Nah, just kidding. Seriously though, we're putting another hole right here. There's the front of the bus, there's the back of the bus, and right here, we want a storage compartment. So we've got this handle here that we're gonna use. It is a slam latch, and that'll go probably right about there. I'm gonna position the door right between the ribs so that it's easy to put together and we don't have to worry about the ribs and stuff. The point of this compartment is to have a place to store potentially diesel cans, and if we want to have a propane tank, I know that we're trying to limit our fuels, but if we do have a propane tank, we need a vented compartment for it to live in. So it'll go in there. And then also a place to store our hoses and stuff for like freshwater fill. Well, freshwater fill might stay in the freshwater area, but like the gray water hose is basically going to be a kind of insulated compartment. There's going to be insulation, but there's also going to be air vent in the bottom. So it'll be a compartment for storing stuff. Going underneath. Let's see if it's bright enough under there. So we're going to have it positioned right between the two the air tanks over here. There's the air tank, here's the outside wall, and it won't touch the air tank, but it'll be close to it, probably within an inch or so of it. And hopefully we can make it about a total of 53 inches long here, so right before the mud flap cut off and then connected to the wall here, because we want the freshwater fill to be inside this compartment. Got the box traced out, corners are squared. We're going to do this inside line because the flange here comes out a 1/2 inch, and that'll give me a little bit of room to wrap some angle or something around there. So if you notice that when I cut the tops, I left a little tab on both top edges. If I would have cut all the way through initially, then while I was going, then the piece would start to sag. So by doing a plunge cut and then like doing all of the corners, the sides so it hangs, and then finishing with the top, doing a plunge cut, leaving like a little 1/2 inch tab still connected, and then walking your line slowly across with good control. I didn't slip out too many times. There was a couple spots that I slipped out, but it happens. And then going across nice and controlled. And then once you get to the last part where you're about to cut through the last tab, I just put something, in this case, I put the little tool to take off the different blades on the angle grinder. I just put this and balanced it underneath so that this edge would have something to rest on. And then this is about the thickness of what the cut was, so it didn't try to shear on me. And then on this edge over here, then I just held on to the top edge and finished the cut. Seemed to work pretty well. So now we're gonna clean these edges up, paint the edges, and then go inside and start fabricating the door for this. Got a little primer, rust coat. We'll let that dry, and while that's drying, we'll go inside and start making this door. Ran out of battery, but ended up just priming the edge of the metal here, priming all of the bare metal there, and spray priming the inside of the frame also. We'll do some seam sealer next and get the latch mounted on. We'll seam sealer around that, put it on, and then we'll also get the hinge mounted as well. So we're gonna have this hinge right there. So it'll be riveted into the end here and then riveted to the outside of the bus right there.
Almost the whole thing done on the inside.
Yeah.
Cool. Ryan's putting in a door stop right now.
Door jam.
Door jam. Nice work, babe.
Thanks. Hopefully I can pull this off.
Yeah, you can.
It's coming along. It's coming along. This is a different style than the other jam that I've done, in that this will have weather stripping right here, and then this is a slam latch, so you'll be able to just slam it shut.
Yeah, slam latch.
So there has to be a little bit of room here so that this can compress the weather stripping. So I think it's gonna come out pretty good. I'm just trying to, I had to take this piece out here, the door, because I needed to attach this piece through the rivets on this side, through that piece. So I drilled them out and then reset them. And then the corners here, I'll put some seam sealer on the corners just to keep water from flowing in. But I don't think it's gonna be 100% dry compartment. We're gonna make it as dry as possible, but there has to be a floor vent, because if we put a propane tank in here, like for off-grid cooking, if we have one of those big like Camp Chef stoves with the big burners that we could do canning and stuff outside, then we're gonna need propane for that. I know that we're trying to limit our fuels, but that might be one of those luxury things where if we have it, we can use it, but if we don't have it, we'll just do without.
Yeah.
All right, y'all, so we plan on carrying these jerry cans, dusty jerry cans. They're covered in spiders right now. And let's see, there's 3 diesel cans, 1 gasoline, and 1 propane. And they're right around 51.5 inches for the fuel cabinet. So I'm making the fuel cabinet 53 inches long so that it doesn't get in the way of the mud flap too much. Because if I ever have to change the mud flap, I want to be able to access the screw or bolt that's on both sides. There's a nut on one side and a screw on the other side. So I figure if I can get my hand in there, which is about a 4-inch space, then I'll be able to easily change out that flap. So now we're going to cut some angle iron. So I want to have 2 that are 53 inches long, and then 2 pieces that are 16.5 inches long, so that we can weld those together. So let's see what we got going on, yo. All right, so while the frame is drying, I'm gonna get the underbody prepared. The sun's starting to go down, the moon's coming up, and but I want to get everything set up. That way we can get this thing mounted probably tomorrow, but it'll be nice to have everything set up. So I've got the underbody open, and I've got some wood here that I'm gonna set up something called box cribbing. So back when I was a firefighter, when we would go on scenes and there was like a vehicle rescue or something like that, crazy crash, and we had to stabilize a vehicle, we would use pieces of wood to shore up the vehicle to make it stable while the firefighters were cutting the cars open and saving people's lives. So I figure, why don't we build a box cribbing right here to hold up the platform while we're bolting it in place. So I'll show you how that's set up. So here are the first two pieces in this system. Let me see if I can get you a good camera angle. So you can watch as I set this up. So typically what we would do is we would set this up underneath vehicles, under the frame, and you would create basically a box frame. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it up so that it'll support the frame right about here. And typically we would have equal lengths, but for this one I'm using some longer ones because it's a longer platform that I'm setting up. So as I go, I just overlap the pieces back and forth. Perfecto. So the frame will sit right here on top of this one, and then we'll be able to bolt it to the bus side. Our frame's dry, so let's get it put underneath and just kind of see how the placement goes. I think this is gonna work great, y'all. So there will be sheet metal in the bottom of this, some pretty thick gauge stuff, and then we'll sheet metal the walls also. Something while we're down here, we're gonna tap into this tank right here, and we're gonna have an air regulator inside this compartment so that we can fill up the tires or use air tools or whatever we need while we're on the road, just as like an emergency backup situation sort of thing. So I decided that I'm gonna weld on the vertical supports for the frame, and then I'm gonna bolt on the vertical support to the ceiling support. That way, if we ever need to drop this whole contraption here to get access to the air tanks to service them or whatever, I'm not sure what would really need to happen unless we needed to like replace one, then we would be able to drop this compartment and do that. So that's what I'm up to. put some primer on the corners here. I ran out of the flat black spray paint and dry fit the top bar. So this one is one that I've got holes drilled in the top that will go to the top of the box. So basically, this is where the door will be, and then this will just slide underneath the bus and then bolt up to the top here. So I'm probably gonna pre-drill the holes here and here, and then continue putting this guy together. It's coming out good. Also rust coat. It says gray primer paint. So I'm wondering if it's just gray paint. Might be the same stuff as just their gray paint. I don't know. We could go check it out, give them a call, ask them, see what they say. They're in the paint department. But I think that this is gonna work out great. It lined up perfectly, like so perfectly. So I'm super happy about that. Bolts will go in real nice. We'll be able to have a little bit of wiggle room because this bar is a little bit longer. So that's all very, very good. The welds went on really, really nice. So I was really happy with how that went. So this front edge will be screwed or bolted, should I say, to the front skirt edge, which has the hat channel that comes down, and also focus on getting the bolts directly into the hat channel so that that is supporting it, not necessarily the skirt trim angle iron. So that'll make it extra strong, and then we'll be able to get these guys mounted. Super excited. Super excited. This is coming out really, really nice. Putting some vice grips in place to hold these together, and then I'll be able to pre-drill this hole and get that bolt put back through. So that was difficult to do and to show, so I just set the camera down for a second so I wouldn't damage it. But basically, I've got some clamps holding the top piece up, angle iron being clamped by the vice grips over here, and then on this side, clamp. I've got this vice grip clamp right here, the quick grip, pulling that bar and holding it in place right over here. And then I made sure that I was level or square with that one going up to the ceiling there. So now I need to drill holes across the top here into these hat channel pieces or these cross members, and get some 3/8 inch bolts going up into those in several spots. Alrighty, all of them are in. That was pretty tough. That's all right. We got it. All right, before I do anything else in this box I'm trying to put together here, I want to utilize this tank right here to use the empty port. Well, there's a port with a plug on it. Take the plug out, and I want to use that air tank for an auxiliary air system. So we got all the parts. Let's start putting in the first pieces, get the hose run, and then we can put the back wall on and then run these wires here for the air tank purges, and then we'll get the regulator and everything put in once we get the wall up. But first, let's get that plug taken out and get air fitting put on there. All right, for this next part of the project, here's all the things that we have to install this pressure regulator, little blower nozzle. We also have some hose. Hey, they're spring vibes. Hey. So we've got all sorts of fun stuff here. We got some parts that we have to put together first before we go underneath the autobus and install. So let's get all of these little parts out and figure out which ones need to go with what. This is the regulator. So I've got a shut-off valve so that we can shut the regulator off completely. I've got various fittings to get it all connected together. Here is a 3/8 fitting to go into the tank itself. And here's the pressure regulator, this guy. So it's got a evaporation, like condensation separation, and then a little quick connect here at the bottom. Has a pressure gauge that'll go on here. So we have to put some of these things together before we go under there. So the first thing we need is to kind of map out what is going to go where. So this connects to the tank. The hose goes from there to there. And then this connects to the valve. The valve connects to the regulator connects to the double male there, to this reducer, 3/8 to a 1/4, and then that connects to the quick disconnect. This pressure gauge connects to that hole there, and then the bracket gets mounted up here to the wall. Next up, I'm going to take out this port cap right here, that guy right there. It's a 3/8 inch, and this will allow us to tap into the tank's capacity. But before doing that, make sure the tank is purged, because you don't want this thing letting out a ton of air from this port. It'll be loud, and that's in real good. I'm definitely gonna save this brass cap, so if we ever need it for any reason, we'll have it. It's pretty stiff to take off, but I think it's just because it's probably was installed originally in the factory. Nice, that's what that looks like. Yeah, it's got a little bit of sealant on it. All right, this is what came off of the tank. And then this one here is the fitting that I'm gonna put on. It's got a little quick disconnect, and then this part swivels even after it's tight. But it's exactly the same diameter, 3/8 inch. Our diesel mechanic told us, hey, it's 3/8 of an inch, so that we're sure to get the right fitting. and National Pipe thread. And the threads, they do match up whenever I stack them. So that's good. So even though this is has some pre-sealant on it, I'm going to put pipe dope on this also and get it secured onto that tank. And then we can start putting the wall up in here. I'm also going to note how far this one was screwed into the tank compared to how many threads we have on this one, so that I'm sure that when I'm screwing it on, that I screwed in far enough. So it looks like it's about 6 threads in, which is almost to the shoulder of this nut right here. So that's going to be a telltale sign for me that whenever we're screwing it in, that basically we just need to bottom it out. And get our lovely pipe dope. Make this extra dopey. And then I make sure that it's not on the fitting on the inside. And I already got it on my pants. All right, let's put it in. All right, so I got the threads started by hand. And now I'm just gonna continue to spin this guy. There we go. All right, next up we're going to systematically start putting in walls and whatnot. So first I'm going to start with the floor pan and get that cut and set in, and we'll probably rivet them in place as we go. Now that all the holes are drilled, I'm gonna put seam sealer all around the edges. I am refreshed and renewed. Yesterday, being on my knees and crouched into this little hole for so long was tiring. But after a good night's sleep, it's time to build the walls here inside of this jerry can storage. So I've got some squares, got the T-bevel, got the tape measure, and we're gonna start mapping out wall sections and putting them up one by one to seal off this area. And then also install the vent, louvered vent, so that, because there's gonna be propane in here, that way we have a way for the compartment to be vented. So it's gonna be semi-watertight. I wanna make all the seams and stuff watertight, but the vent, I'm gonna try to position it in a way that it's not gonna get road debris or anything like that through it. So we'll see how this comes along. So I'm gonna start by mapping out the back wall, or this wall that's by the wheel first, and then do these facing walls, and then we'll do this back one in a creative way that we'll still be able to access. It'll have like a little access right here for the air, and then we've got to get these airline lines put through in a way that we can cause those to purge if we need to pull them or whatever. So time to start measuring and drawing out our plans one at a time. So I got some paper, got a pen to make my little notes, and we'll just start doing all that. Fun, huh? so here's the first piece, and we'll take this to the bus and install it. There's another wall. Going along. It smells like shit out here. All right, so for this next part here, I have to get a little thing put in so that the cords for the air tank purge can make their way into here. So I'm gonna use a hole saw bit, to drill a hole that'll fit this, and then slide this through on the outside, and then have those two cords come up through this so that we can pull them both either together or individually. So that should be fun. I'm just going to measure up to a higher point, and then have both of them go up to that point for pulling. That should do it pretty good. There we go, that'll work. So those airline cables will go through here and through there. Cool, it's coming along. Looks like the dry fit worked good. I'm out of seam sealer, so I'll need to go get some more. We have one more piece to cut. I'm gonna see if I can get this piece cut out, and then I'll be good to go. It got dark last night. A little blown out there. There you go, that's a little better. It got dark last night, but I dry fit this spot here with the two airline cables coming out. Now this goes to the top tank, and then this one here goes to the bottom tank. I wanted them separate so that I can hear whenever we're pulling them to purge the tanks of any moisture that may accumulate. I want to hear them individually and know that we did a good job purging the moisture and having them separate. The louvers look like they went in pretty good. I've got them facing down, so hopefully we don't get too much road debris or moisture in from those. But it's one of those things that's required for having propane storage to have a vented box to put it in. So now I want to pull this out, put the seam sealer and then get this all screwed on. And then also, while it was dark out, I made the last couple pieces for this spot right in here. So this one will go up here so that we can access that in there if we ever need to. And then that one will just be a panel covering like that. I can see here in a second how that's done. And we should be almost rocking and rolling. And then we'll have to figure out what we're gonna do on the roof side, which should be an interesting problem to achieve. But we're not gonna let anything tear us down. We're gonna just make this happen. So let's get working on it. Fuel canisters fit perfectly. This one has a little bit of extra room, so we could upgrade to a 5-gallon for this one. We got enough room for it. Now we get to place the pressure regulator, and I think I'm going to put it right here. That'd be a good spot considering where the air is coming out of. It'll be a nice run for the hose, and it's easy access for us, and it's easy to see, and we can still access the compartment door. The airline will go through this grommet here, and that'll help hold it in place and protect the airline from the metal. And then this will go, it'll go out up to the regulator. Before we continue on, let's turn the bus on and check for air leaks. All right, I haven't turned this guy on in a while. Oh, still makes noise, that's good. Started right up without an issue, very good. All right, now that the air pressure has equalized in all the tanks, let's go ahead and spray it with some sudsy and see if we have any air leaks. I don't hear any air leaks, so I think we might be good, but it's always good to spray these fittings, especially considering this fitting that I put here is on an air tank that is also connected to all the air appliances on the bus, including the brakes. So we need to make sure that the tank is holding air. There's a little air coming from there, none from that fitting, and none from that fitting. So let's tighten this one up and retest it. All right, it looks like it is maxed out at 108. So that's not enough to top off the tires completely, but it's something. All right, so the air pressure on here is not high enough to completely fill the tires to the rated capacity. However, I was able to get it up to 102 on this pressure regulator here. That one said 102, but the tire gauge said 106, and this one said 106. So, or 107. So I think that's good enough to get us topped off while we're on the road. So we'll just have to get completely full when we go to like truck stops and stuff. But I'm very happy with this because that means that we'll now be able to use the air here for like using the little air blower gun to blow off surfaces. Or if we had an impact driver, we might be able to use an impact driver also, or an air chisel, or any of the air tools that exist. There's tons of them. So this opens up a whole new world for while we're on the road for tapping into our air tanks. There we go. Got the propane secured over there. It's nice and tight.